Testing. I'm going to see if this works this time. Feel free to put me up. Is that better? Nope. Let's try. Try one more time. If not, I'll probably just use one of these handheld mics. This is good? This is clear? I think there's a bit of a feedback. A little bit. Maybe what I'll do is I'll use a microphone if it's better. Is it good now? Okay. I mean, I can get a little loud, so maybe put it down a bit, I guess. I just like to have my mic up because I like hearing myself, you know? I guess. This morning I was in Sabbath school class with Joel, with Shekinah, and with Genrev. And I told them, I said, guys, listen, I would rather be in this Sabbath school class than preaching. But doesn't mean I'm not excited to be here, guys. I would just, maybe I'm a little bit more excited for Sabbath school, but I had a great time with you guys. But I'm also excited to be here, church. Man, you guys are not that excited. That's okay. That's okay. I want to invite you to take out your Bibles to the book of Luke chapter 15. And if you're not excited this morning, that's okay. You know why? Because I'm excited for what we are about to study. I'm passionate, actually, about what we're going to be talking about in Luke chapter 15. We're actually going to go through the entire chapter of Luke 15. And so I ask you to please take out your Bibles as we study the scriptures. Luke chapter 15. Verse 1, just right at the beginning, Brother Bill. Luke chapter 15. So just hang in there. Take out your phones. Take out your Bibles. Our sermon title for today is I'm Lost. Now, I got to ask you a question, and I got to see everybody's hands up. Have you ever been lost? Okay, I don't think there's anybody that can escape from this question. Have you ever been lost? I can't even count how many times I have been lost. But I'll tell you this one time when I was at Berman University. It was my third year of finishing my pastoral degree. And when you reach third year, they assign you to do your practicum. And so I was paired with a pastor that had a 2-church district, Wetaskiwin and Warburg. Does anybody know where that is? Okay, even the name Warburg to me still doesn't even sound real, but I was assigned to these 2 districts. And so at that time, I didn't have a car as a student. And so I would have my friend, and my friend would take me, and he would drop me off either at Wetaskiwin or at Warburg, and then he would go to Edmonton and do his practicum. So it was kind of on his way there. And so finally, after maybe like 2 months, I got myself a car. I was excited. I was so happy to finally had a car. But here's the thing. Whenever my friend came to drop me off at my churches, I was always the passenger. And as a passenger, you have some sense of where you're going, but you don't really pay attention to every single detail or every single road sign that's there. So I said to myself, man, I've been there so many times. I know how to get to Warburg. So I got myself ready that Sabbath morning. I even went early because I was like, just in case, there's a hiccup, I got to make sure that I make it to church. So I got in my car. I had my phone. I didn't have data. I was a broke student. I had my maps on there, but you can't really access your maps without data. So I just put my phone down, and I'm like, it's so simple getting there. I mean, you got to get the highway, then you got to exit, then you find one other side highway. No problem for me. Here I am driving, and as I'm driving, next thing you know, I'm on a dirt road. Now, I don't know if this is an Alberta thing, but it seems like sometimes you can be driving on a road and it just turns into a dirt road. I've never seen that in Ontario, okay? So coming to Alberta, it was a shock for me. So here I am on this dirt road and I stop. It's cold outside and I'm thinking to myself, I'm lost. Man, I am lost. I had to preach. Sabbath school was almost coming to an end. And here I am wondering, what am I going to do? And if you've been lost, which I think you have been, you know that feeling. How does it feel? You're anxious, right? You're worried. You're starting to have, fear. And the more that I keep trying to figure out where I'm going, I keep getting more lost. I couldn't rely on myself anymore. And isn't that so true for us as Christians that sometimes we tend to lose our way? especially when we rely on ourselves. And I don't think there's not one single person in this room that has not lost their way with Christ at some point in our lives. See, that could be whether we get complacent as believers. That could be that we rebel and decide to do whatever we want to do. That could be anything. But all of us, at some point in our lives, whatever the reason is, we get lost. And the question that I want to ask this morning is, what do we do? What do we do when we find ourselves in that situation that we're lost? Luke chapter 15 is going to give us that answer for us. Luke chapter 15, verses 1 to 3. I want you to pay attention to how Luke chapter 15 starts. Luke writes, "Then all the tax collectors and the sinners drew near to him to hear." So they're talking about Jesus. So all the tax collectors, all the sinners came to Jesus. And the Pharisees and the scribes, they complained, saying, "This man receives sinners and eats with them." So he spoke this parable, saying, pause right here. Luke chapter 15 starts by telling us that Jesus is around sinners. See, there was something about Jesus that made you want to be around him. The outcasts, the sinners, the tax collectors, they found hope by being around Jesus. Now, I don't know about you, but can you testify to this fact that being around Jesus and his presence is satisfying? That's exactly how these people felt. But we have the scribes and the Pharisees, or what I like to call the church folks complaining, saying to themselves, what is going on with Jesus? Why is he associating with these types of people? Now, let me make this picture real for you for a second. Try to picture this. Try to picture me, your pastor of the Fort McMurray Seventh-day Adventist Church, downtown, Saturday night, in front of a bar with a crowd of people that we don't consider to be so righteous. Picture that. I think Elder Rex and the rest of the elders, you'll be getting a phone call from some members saying, we got to talk about our pastor. Something's wrong here. And here's the problem with that is it would make some of us uncomfortable, and we would ask, what's the pastor doing downtown so late? And if the pastor is around these types of people, there's two things. Number one, he's probably endorsing their behavior. And the next thing is, hey, God knows, but he might even be participating in doing some of these things. Do you get the picture? That's exactly how uncomfortable the Pharisees are with Jesus. They did not like that not only he associated with them, but verse 3 tells us, or verse 2 tells us, that he receives them, right? He takes them in, he eats with them, he spends time with them. And as a result, Jesus then tells them these three stories to teach them this powerful lesson, and a lesson that we can apply to our lives, especially when we're lost. He poses a question in verse 4. So let's read verse 4. He starts by telling us a story, and the story starts just like this. If a shepherd, what man of you, having 100 sheep, if he loses one of them, does he not leave the 99 in the wilderness and go after the one that is lost until he finds it? He asked them this very relatable question. If a shepherd has 100 sheep and he loses one of them, is he not going to go and find this one that is lost? Now, for the listener of that day, this analogy and this question is very relatable. And it was very obvious what the shepherd would do. The shepherd would leave his 99 and he would go after the one, because that one sheep is very valuable to the shepherd. That one sheep is his income. That one sheep is important to him. And so for him to leave the 100 to find the one was something that you did not even have to ask about doing. You did it. Now sheep, they're such an interesting animal. I don't know if you've ever seen sheep, but they have a natural tendency to wander and to leave. And so whenever a sheep is left alone, even like the smallest thing or a distraction can cause them to lose their way and to get lost. And if the shepherd does not go out to find this sheep, it is in danger of losing its life. And so here's the implications that Jesus is trying to communicate to the Pharisees. And here's the implication for us when we're lost. Jesus says that I am the good shepherd. The good shepherd lays down his life for his sheep. Jesus is the one that is the shepherd. He is the one that is coming after the sheep. And in this case, we are the sheep. And here's the thing. Some of us, we have the tendency to wander away. We have the tendency to leave Christ. We have the tendency to get distracted by things going on around us, so much so that we cannot find our way back. We get taken away with maybe false doctrines. We may be taken away by putting trust in ourselves. We maybe even get taken away by being complacent in our faith. But I want to encourage you that wherever you may be at this time, Ezekiel chapter 44, verses 11, for thus says the Lord God, behold, I myself will search for my sheep and will seek them out. God will directly come and rescue you and find you wherever you may be at. The devil walks around like a roaring lion, seeking who he may devour. And when the devil sees a child of God, when he sees you and I lost, all alone, wandering, he prays in hopes to destroy us. But I thank God that he comes to find us. There's a quote that I want to read to you from Desire of Ages. Every soul is known fully to Jesus as if he or she were the only one from whom the Savior died. Jesus knows each and every one of us personally, and if you are the only one that gets lost, well, it was good enough for him to come and rescue you. So don't ever feel that you're not good enough, that God won't rescue me just because, of my age or who I am or what I've done or the fact that I left. Jesus would come just for you. But here's the question to the sheep, to those that wander away: how are we going to respond when we are found by Jesus? What is our response to when we are found? Jesus says in Luke 15, verses 7, I say to you likewise that there is more joy in heaven over one sinner who repents than over 99 just persons who need no repentance. Our response should be very simple. We recognize that we're lost. We recognize our state, and we choose to accept and follow Jesus. And when you do that, there is rejoicing in heaven. See, our first lesson today is that Jesus came to rescue those who wander away. Let's get into the second story today. The second story today is about the lost coin. I want to read verses 8. Verse 8 says, what woman having 10 silver coins, if she loses one coin, does not light a lamp, sweep the house, and search carefully until she has found it? He now gives this different analogy to tell us a same implication, and he tells this story about a lost coin. We know the story of the lost sheep, but I think sometimes we forget to talk about the story of the lost coin. We don't hear too many sermons about it. And Jesus demonstrates that, again, his mission is like a woman that had 10 silver coins and she loses one, and she diligently seeks this out. See, again, for the listener of that day, they fully understood the woman's anxiety, and they understood that lighting a lamp, doing whatever it takes to find this one coin. I remember reading this story, thinking to myself, man, if I lose $1, that's not a big deal to me. You really think I'm going to go waste my time flipping my house around for $1? But here's the thing. In those days, receiving 10 silver coins was a wedding gift. And those coins, they held sentimental value, like today would be a wedding ring. And so to lose your wedding ring, your engagement ring, is completely valuable to you. You would search for it. You would go out and do whatever it takes to find this because it is so important to you. So it's not like losing $1. That's not what's going on here. It's like losing thousands of dollars. And here's the implication. The difference between the lost sheep and the lost coin is that, remember, the sheep is aware that it's lost and can't find its ways. But think about this. The coin does not know that it's lost. You see, some of us don't even know that we are lost. We might not have wandered away. We might be in a state where we are just complacent and where we think that we're all right. You see, Jesus did not only come to save those who have wandered away, he came to even save those who do not know that they need saving. He did not only come to save the Seventh-day Adventists, he came to save every single person in this world. And though they might not fully understand it, he came to find them as well. And we can have courage and strength in this to know that God is in the business of trying to rescue and save every single person. Because when that piece of silver falls, it must lay there. It's not going to come back into the person's hand magically. The person has to go out, seek it, and find it. The coin is powerless. And we will recognize in each theme that the sheep is powerless, the coin is powerless, that we need somebody to come and to rescue us. And when the woman finds this coin, she rejoices with her friends because she has found something valuable to her. Christ wants to save every single person he can, even those that don't know they need it. That's what our second lesson is about, is that Jesus came to save those who don't know that they're lost. Let's look at the third and final story in verse 11. The last parable is about a father that had two sons. Jesus tells this story, and he said a certain man had two sons. And the younger one of them said to his father, Father, give me the portion of the goods that falls to me. So he divided them from his livelihood. And not many days after, the younger son gathered together. He journeyed to a far country, and there he wasted his life with prodigal living. The story starts that the son makes a conscious decision to leave his father's house. And this is why this story is now different than the other two that we have read and studied, because in this story, the son makes an active choice to rebel and to leave his father's house. And see, some of us, we might not wander away. Some of us, we might not even know what is going on, but to some of us, we make that choice to actively leave God. We go on. We want to live our best life. We enjoy. We do whatever we want. And here's the thing. I was kind of puzzled to myself, because if I'm the father and if my son comes to me and he says, Dad, give me money so that I can live my life. Do you really think I want to give my son that money so he can go waste it and do whatever he wants? And I was puzzled for a moment, because I said to myself, why would the father give his son money? Why would the father, in a sense, endorse his lifestyle? And here's the thing. The father gave his money in hopes that one day his son would come home. It was actually an act of love and of mercy. And so what God does with us, he sometimes allows us, because you see, God has every right to take our life. When we disobey him, when we're disobedient, he has every right to just take our life. But in his grace and goodness, he allows us to keep living in hopes that one day we can go back home. Verse 15, I want you to pay attention to the response and the attitude of the young boy in verse. Let's look at verse 17. When the young boy wasted all his money, he came to himself and he said, how many of my father's hired servants have bread enough to spare, and I perish with hunger? I will arise and go to my father, and I'm going to say to him. The young boy finally comes to his senses, and he says, I'm going to go back home. But I can't just go back home. I got to get a speech prepared. I got to get something ready. What am I going to say to my father? And here's his speech. He says, Father, I have sinned against heaven and before you, and I'm no longer worthy to be called your son. So he says, the first thing I'm going to say is, Dad, listen, I recognize I'm not worthy to be your son. I'm sorry, God. I'm sorry, Dad, for what I did. But then he thinks to himself, that's not enough. That's not enough for me. So he has this last line here that says, make me like one of your hired servants. Boom. There we go. I got my speech all straightened up, and I'm going to go home. I'm going to tell my dad, I'm sorry, and let me work my way back. That's a good plan. And so he goes back home, and as he is walking, I want you to go to verse 20. He arose and came to his father, but when he was still a great way off, his father saw him. He had compassion on him. He ran and fell and kissed him on his neck, and the son said, Father, remember the speech, I have sinned against heaven, and in your sight I am no longer worthy to be called your son. He says the first part of the speech in verse 22, but the father said to him, and the young boy, he has this plan. He has this plan of what he's going to do, of how he's going to do it, of how he's going to get his father's favor back. I'm going to work my way back. And Jesus is so intentional in putting this two-part speech because he wants us to recognize the attitude that we should have. We should be sorry. We should recognize that, man, I've messed up. I've done wrong. But Jesus wants us to pay attention to the fact that we cannot work our way back. And that's why Jesus includes the second part of the speech. But the boy never gets it out. Why? The dad is excited. The dad is just excited that his son is home. Finally, my son is home. That's all I ever wanted. Brothers and sisters, even though we rebel against God, we're always going to be his sons and daughters. And whether or not, brothers and sisters, whatever we do, we know that our Father's house is always open to us. But the question then goes to you. How are you going to respond when Jesus comes to rescue you? The last point of the story is that Jesus came to rescue those who left his Father's house. Now, whether you are the sheep, whether you wander away, whether you're the coin and have no idea what's going on, or whether you are the boy that actively leads his Father's house, Jesus is coming for you. And all that remains is, how are you going to respond when Jesus finds you? The story ends with them having a party. And as they're having a party, the older brother comes in verse 28. But he was angry and he would not go into his father's house. Therefore his father came out and pleaded with him. So he answered and said to him, Father, these many years I have been serving you. Have mercy. I never transgressed your commands at any time, yet you never gave me a young goat that I might make merry with my friends. See, the older brother started complaining on this fact that his father willingly accepted his son back. And now here's something for us as a church to think about. When Jesus does bring people in our church, how are we going to react? What are we going to do? Are we going to nourish them? Are we going to be there for them, pray for them? Or are we going to be like the younger brother, the older brother that complains because God's grace should not be given to that person? Closing story is, there was a pastor that came to a new church. And the church was so excited to have this pastor here. And the pastor got up the first Sabbath and he stood up to preach. And as he stood up to preach, he preached a powerful sermon. And he preached, John 3:16. God sent Jesus to die for you and me so that we can have a second chance. And everybody was excited about this pastor, and everybody was happy that this pastor came here. And after the service was done, everybody came and they shook the pastor's hand and they say, Pastor, that was an amazing sermon. Thank you for preaching that sermon. The pastor went home, and next week church came and he got up and he preached the same exact sermon. And the people were wondering, what's going on with the pastor? Did he forget that he preached the same sermon last week? And church members, they didn't want to say anything, right? He's new there. I mean, they don't really know him. Is he going to blow up? How is he going to react? So they said to themselves, let's just play it cool. So they went out to Pastor, thank you for this message again. And maybe there were some people that fell asleep that probably didn't even remember what happened. Anyways, that week goes by. The third week comes again. The pastor gets up, and you can guess, what does he do? Preach the same sermon. And now people are crossing their arms. And they're sitting, and they're looking at one another. Who's going to be the one to tell him something? But nobody was brave enough. And they said, one more week. Finally, fourth week came, and he preached the same sermon. The elders and deacons and church members, they put their hands up and say, Pastor, man, listen, we got to talk to you right in front of everybody. What's going on? Do you only have one sermon ready? Are we not paying you enough? And here's the pastor's response. He said, we'll move on when you understand it. But how true is that? There is no other message more important than this. And if we do not understand this, there's no point of moving on. And the message is simple. Jesus came to find you and me. And the response is all up to you. And so I ask you to close your eyes, bow your heads as I pray. And as I pray, I ask you that as God speaks to you, that you would make a decision today to say, Lord, I want to fully follow you. My ways are not your ways. I have done things. Whatever it is that's in your heart, today you can say, Lord, I choose to follow you and accept you fully. And I recognize that you love me and that you have grace and mercy for me. Father, it is so good for us to study these stories. Some of us are like the sheep. We just have a tendency to get deceived. We just have a tendency to just walk away. We just get carried away with everything that's going on around us. Some of us, we have no clue what's going on, God. And then some of us, we do know what's going on. We leave. We want to live our best life. And the good news is, Father, whichever thing we might be, whether the sheep, the coin, or the son, you still came to find each and every one of us. Lord,